Digimon has been no stranger to doing crossovers of their virtual pets with various collaborators. Most recently, we've seen the Hype Drop Digital Monster version 20th, and along those same lines we had another fashion line release with the Uniqlo Digimon Mini. Magazines like Jump and Famitsu had their own editions, and even Japan Airlines of all things got in on the action. Those were all just unique shell designs, but meanwhile Digimon's older sister Tamagotchi has been hugely successful in having full-on unique content with a variety of established and beloved characters. We've seen them cross over with One Piece, Pixar, Detective Conan, Jurassic Park, and even Pokemon at one point. Each of those releases features unique sprite work and even gameplay that reflects those series, and Digimon even did the same when they had the Metabot crossover Dim card. But now they are going a step further with a new dedicated device for another well-known franchise about powerful creatures, Monster Hunter. I want to get this out of the way fast. This device has been selling like crazy in the few days since its announcement, and is proving to be incredibly sought after. At this point in time, there's nothing to say that there will be a localized release outside of Japan, but that shouldn't stop you from getting one if you want one. Even if it's only in Japanese, VPET menus are super easy to navigate, so there's no real language barrier. And that just leaves the question of, how can I buy one if I'm not in Japan? Thanks to today's sponsor, that question has a super easy answer. Zenin TCG is your one-stop shop for Digimon and anime merch, and they have pre-orders going on now for the Digital Monster Color Monster Hunter 20th Edition. As a special, if you choose to buy both the Rathalos and Zenogre colors, you will get $2 off your order. In addition to that, if you want some extra protection, you can get their custom-made premium VPET case to hold your device, and you can get 5% off that case by including it in your cart with the Monster Hunter devices. And while you're there, make sure to check out their selection of stickers. I recently ordered some Digimon Pendulum-themed ones that I will be using to decorate my cases. Head to zenintcg.com using the links in the description to stock up. Alright, going back to the device release, like I said, this has been a very popular release. More popular than any Digimon VPET we've seen from recent years, and that's, I can't say it's necessarily surprising considering the IP that we're using here, but it is something that is still a bit of a shock. So, for those unfamiliar with the process of buying Digimon VPETs these days, if you're coming in new to this, seeing the Monster Hunter name on this and being like, I want to see what that is. So, Digimon VPETs generally get sold in a pre-order fashion from Premium Bandai. And there have been some exceptions to that. We've had some retail releases in recent years, but by and large, they're mostly pre-order only through Premium Bandai. Because they're only through Premium Bandai, they are only seeing a actual release in Japan. Now, some cases we will see other non-Japanese locations sell them from Bandai. So Bandai has their own Premium Bandai of US, for example, that will import items from Premium Bandai Japan. Likewise, in the UK, they have the Bandai Shop UK, which will do the same. They import things from the Japanese source to come into this, but there's not a localized release of them. They're not being widely released around the world in any kind of stores whatsoever. It's just something that you would have to pre-order when the time comes. And people have been pre-ordering this like nuts. For real. We've had pre-orders run out in the past, which maybe say, how does a pre-order run out? And it's like, well, these have manufacturing limits. They can only make so many at a time. And when those pre-orders run out, they'll put up a new one. And we've had that happen a few times. So the Digivice Color most recently did run out of pre-orders after about a week or so. And so they set up a second pre-order. Now that second pre-order will arrive later. So that second wave is still due to release in October at this point, for example. But they did at least put it up so that people would be able to order it. And these pre-orders are intended to go on for a whole month. So the Monster Hunter devices that we're looking at here ran out in less than a day for the first pre-order. And that is absolutely insane on its own, but then they went back up a little bit later for a second pre-order that would be releasing in March. So this first pre-order, if you got in the first pre-order, you'd be getting it in February. The second pre-order is for March. That second pre-order also sold out very, very quickly, I think within like 4 hours or so. And so they put up a third, and that third one is now set to ship in May. Not even April, they skipped straight to May. So I don't know if they just were like, well, we might as well reserve more manufacturing space to be able to get these done, but either way, yeah, there is a huge demand for this. So much more than we've seen for other Digimon VPETs, which is sad. I will say that the Digimon isn't. We all know that, right? Digimon's not a super popular franchise, and the VPETs, even though they started Digimon, that's where Digimon came from, is from VPETs. Even then, it's not the most popular part of the franchise. So we expect them to not be super popular, but this just dwarfed their popularity immensely immediately. I've had friends asking me to buy them these when I import mine so that they can get a copy as well, just because they love Monster Hunter. And I mean, that's exciting. I love the chance to be able to have people who may have not really been into VPETs or had much experience with them have the chance to get into them now. So that is really, really cool. Just again, these are pre-order only, so if you do want one, just make sure to actually get a pre-order in. If this third one runs out, I don't know. I don't know what happens at that point. Do they do a fourth one and just we were making these for an entire year? I don't know. It's I would kind of secretly hoping that the demand that we're seeing for this will lead them to want to actually do a retail release at some point and not leave it as just premium Bandai. But that's wishful thinking, not something I would bank on. If you truly want this, pre-order it. That's the only way you'll guarantee being able to get it. And again, it will be in Japanese most likely. The Digital Monster shells are usually Japanese language devices, with some exceptions like the Digital Monster X, but both the Digital Monster version 20th and Digital Monster Color were in Japanese. This likely will be too, as opposed to the Pendulum series, which is usually in English. So just a heads up on that. If you can't read it, it's not a big deal. There's like so very few menus that you have to actually read through, and I don't know any Japanese, and I use these devices just fine, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. So that's the details about the release of it. Again, these will start releasing in February, but depending on when you ordered it or where you're getting it from, that may be later, and that is to be expected. So moving on to the contents of the device and what it's all about. So we do have two colors here. We have the Rathalos and Zinogre colors for these devices, and we'll take a closer look at their shells here in just a moment. But one thing to keep in mind is that these aren't two different versions. These are one version with two different color options. So whichever one you buy, doesn't matter. They're the same device. They have the same content. Everything about them is the same. So nothing to worry about there. Just pick whichever color you like more, or get both if you want it. It doesn't really matter. Just cosmetic. The sprites we can see here on this example. So the Digital Monster Color sprites were 48 by 48 pixels, but they were originally designed at 16 by 16 and just scaled up by 300% to fill up the sprite limit. But in this case, we're not dealing with 16 by 16 sprites scaled up. These are properly all filled out at 48 to begin with, so much higher resolution than we see on the Digital Monster Color and Digimon Pendulum sprites, and they all look very good. You'll hear this from me a few times. I'm not a Monster Hunter person. I don't know much about the series, so I don't know how to say, these compared to their counterparts that I'd be more familiar with. Just from looking at the artwork, they look great, but the sprite work on these, I think they did a really good job. They look really nice. Definitely really quality work on that. So the shells, likewise, phenomenal. We've seen these full wrapped around shells before in the Kenji Watanabe Digital Monster version 20th and the Osmaria Digital Monster X's, where they have a printed image all around it. I think it's using UV printing, if I recall correctly. And so we have these representing two of the monsters from the series. So we have Rathalos here, and so it's very. I'm gonna keep saying dragon theme throughout this. I know he's not necessarily a dragon or whatever, but I'm just gonna keep saying that. So very dragon theme printing going on there. And then we've got a Zinogre, which has printing from whatever the heck Zinogre is supposed to be. I guess it's a wolf of some variety. So either way, it represents them very, very well, I would say, and they definitely look absolutely phenomenal. As far as interacting with the device, these devices should behave and have this just almost identical gameplay to the Digital Monster Color. We saw the same icons that we use for checking stats, feeding, cleaning up waste, all that stuff should be included, so be prepared for that if this is a new thing to you, that this will behave very similarly to other Digital Monster VPETs, or even similar to Tamagotchi if you're more familiar with those. What differences we may see, hard to say. I would expect we'd at least have some form of unique training game on it. I don't know what it would be, or if they would take it from one of the other Digital Monster Colors, because the Digital Monster Color series had 5 different trainings, most of which were kind of the same thing, but still at least 5 different different aesthetics to them. So we might see a unique training for this. We also see that there are going to be unique sounds for this, so it's not going to be just Digital Monster sounds, and which ones they may use from the Digital Monster series, we'll see if they do or not, but these will be based on the Monster Hunter series, it seems. So, so that's the general idea of the conversion of the device from going from a Digital Monster to a Monster Hunter series, is that it will be mostly the same gameplay. And we even see a few of the features returning here. It talks about cold mode, which is a way to pause your device when you're not using it, as well as backup, because you'll be able to swap between a Digimon, or I guess a monster. The Monster Hunter monsters have a specific designation, or are they just monsters? I don't know. They're monsters. So you'll have a monster that you're raising, but you can also put it in a backup to raise a different one, allowing you to swap between those two, if that is something you wish to do. So it's also rechargeable. There is a lithium battery inside, and it recharges through USB-C. and you can connect it with other devices in the Digimon Color series. That includes the Digital Monster Color, Digimon Pendulum Color, and while it doesn't show a picture of the Digivice Color here, I think we should expect that it would, because that's also compatible with the Digital Monster Color and Digimon Pendulum Color. No real reason why it wouldn't be compatible with this as well. So beyond that, the gameplay differences that we may experience, I would expect at least a few more, but it should be mostly similar to the rest of the Digital Monster series. At the moment, we only know of 8 monsters from the Monster Hunter series that are coming in, but there are supposed to be 36 monsters in total on the device. And just like the Digital Monster Color, we can also swap between backgrounds that we'll be able to most likely unlock through quest mode or something else that may be involved in it. So right now we have these lovely ones here. I don't know what other ones to expect, but we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a moment. But yeah, plenty of monsters to go through here. The Digital Monster Color series only had like 18 to 20 Digimon on each device, so having 36 here is a much higher amount. So very cool to see that they went all out with it. So one other thing they did to go all out is, you may remember when they did the Metabot crossover dim, they created new special Metabots, which were Grey Wars and Garuru Metal, to represent War Greymon and Metal Garurumon as Metabots. And in this case, we're combining Greymon and Rathalos, as well as Garurumon and Zinogre, to create Rathalos Greymon and Xeno Garurumon. So very cool designs. Of course, it's the classic Kenji Watanabe style right there, and they fit right into both series, I would say. They very much look like Digimon, but they have those very defining features from those Monster Hunter monsters as well. So very cool to see them. I love when they do this sort of thing, when they make these crossover Digimon. So it'll be really cool to be able to raise them. Very much looking forward to seeing what their sprites look like as well. Full disclosure with all this is that my experience with Monster Hunter is very limited. I remember a friend of mine had it on the PSP like 20 years ago, and I saw him play a little bit. I tried picking up one of them for the Wii, and that was probably 3 or 4 years after that, and don't know which one it was, but didn't really click with me for whatever reason, so I don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to this, and that's hard when I need to make a video all about a Monster Hunter device. So, to help me with that, I have called in a specialist of the matter, and by specialist, I mean a mod who plays a lot of Monster Hunter and knows way more than I do. So if you're familiar with the Digitama Hatchery Discord server, if you're not, of course, you should join that to stay up to date on all this. But Vince Valoran has been one of our mods there from pretty much the very beginning of the server's existence, and is, yeah, he knows his Monster Hunter stuff. So Vince, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
Hopefully I didn't oversell you. I don't know. You are currently the resident Monster Hunter expert in the room, so...
That's fair. I think out of all the mods, I've probably played the most, so I'll take that title.
Like I say, it's not something I'm super familiar with, so I was going to explain what it was to people, but realized I'd probably butcher it because my understanding would be stupid. So if you don't mind, can you describe to us, for those who are like me, who don't know much about Monster Hunter, what would you describe it as in a couple sentences?
Funny enough, it's kind of, the name on the tin is what you expect. It's about hunting monsters, but a little bit more granular. It's more so you are hunting monsters at the request of either a guild or the village, and then by hunting those, you get parts and upgrades you need to create equipment that then lets you hunt the bigger monsters and stronger, monsters that the guild and village need you to hunt. It's kind of a loop.
I could see why that's popular, and it is very popular from what I've seen. I guess much bigger than Digimon's popularity, considering how quickly all these things...
I wonder why you'd say that. Weird.
Yeah, I wonder why. It's so yeah, obviously there's a lot of potential from what I can see with this, and they're really grabbing onto it, and they've given us 8 monsters from the series to look at so far, in addition to the 2 special Digimon ones that were put in. So from these monsters, I recognized about like 1.5 of them. We've got Rathalos here on the screen, of course, and I played Smash Brothers, so I know who that is. It's
exactly.
But this is like, I guess would you consider him like the mascot of Monster Hunter? Is that how that works?
It's tied between Rathalos and Rathian, which is just the green one of this. They've both been in the series since the beginning, so they're basically mascots. They're kind of twin mascots. It's male and female, so it's kind of like the couple mascots even. Gotcha.
Okay. So yeah, so it makes sense that this would be here. And none of the other monsters we've seen is Rathian, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd want to see a green one of these guys. So I bet it's going to be on there, but we've not seen it.
Gotcha. No, I can totally see that then. So yeah, either way, super strong, classic dragon design. The weirdest thing to me is that I often hear people tell me that this is actually a bird. What's the deal with that? Is there background on that?
So There are different classifications of monsters, and they're usually defined by wyvern type. So you have flying wyvern, brute wyvern. It's not technically a dragon, it's a flying wyvern. So it is not in Monster Hunter, dragon is pretty ubiquitous to very select monsters, and this isn't one of them. And it's not a dragon because per like how you define a dragon is it has arms and wings, where this has wings in its arms.
So that classification is very important here. Got it. Okay, cool. So yeah, so we got that one then. I mean, honestly, just absolute classic design. Really like it.
Yeah.
And then up next, we have the one that I know from an emote that gets used on our server a lot.
Yep, Zinogre.
Zinogre, okay, gotcha. And this is the one, of course, that is being counterparted with Garurumon on this one for Zinogururumon. And yeah, tell me a little bit about this guy.
So funny enough, the first time he appeared in the series was Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, which never came to America. It never got officially brought over to us, but ever since its release has been a very, very popular monster. It's pretty much the bog standard, like, hey, here's the dog monster. It's like the cool dog, and it's an electric type. But we got him with Monster Hunter 4, I believe, was when he first came to America, and he's been kind of a staple ever since.
Out of curiosity, how long ago was Monster Hunter 4? I feel like there was like 15 versions of 3, and then like...
Well, so there's mainline and portable, and that's where things get a little tricky, is because you have like Monster Hunter 2 and the Monster Hunter DOS, which is not 2, but it is. Okay. Portably, it's 2. So 4 was 20... I want to say 15.
Okay.
Or 16.
Okay, more recent than I expected then. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, since then we've had a few more.
Yeah, we've had quite a few since then.
So then, yeah, so I guess then with what you said, this is a very popular one. So it's kind of like truly is the Garurumon to the Rathalos Greymon.
Yeah, I'd say that. That's pretty close.
Good choices there then. And then we got this lovely pink creature here, kind of flowery.
Mitsuzune. Yeah, so what's interesting is this is a peacock-like a monster, where this is actually the male is a lot more pink and like kind of colorful and flourishy, but the females are all a lot more drab, not unlike the peacock. So everyone you fight is a male, which gets some interesting confusion from people. But this is actually somewhat newer of a monster. We got them in Monster Hunter Generations, which was kind of a best of collection back in 2018, sounds right, somewhere in that range, where we got like the Fated 4, and this was one of the 4. But it is a water type, but it's also kind of it produces a secretion that's like soap. So if you get hit by it, you start slipping and sliding around. It's become a really beloved monster, as you can tell, because it's got that kind of like cool, or not cool, like cutesy floral look to it.
Right.
And its armor set makes you look like a priest from like a Japanese temple, or priestess from Japanese temple. So they kind of leaned into that kind of weeby archetype with this monster.
So we're getting a good mix then here from the variety of monsters then. We're getting them from the very beginning and from recent games here. So this is yeah, they're picking from all over. That's cool. And then up next we have the bull monkey of some variety.
Rajang. This came out Monster Hunter 2, actually. So the next game in the series, we had this friendly fellow here. He is a aggressive monkey, and he's a skill check for a lot of players. He is about as aggressive and fast as the hunter is, so he can really catch you off guard, because he can just, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna get him in this attack, and like, nope, he slapped you. So he can be kind of polarizing. Some people like him, some people hate him, especially in the more recent games. He's become a lot more aggressive of a monster. So people have a hard time and have to adapt on like, I can't just, use its AI and abuse it.
So do they generally keep like similar fighting styles for the monsters between the games? Like,
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, they just kind of improve it, make it a little bit more fluid and smooth. For instance, like in the first game he was in 2, it was very like kind of clunky. Think like railroading, like he's doing this now, so I can kind of walk around him and slap him. But now they've become a lot more agile with their reactions.
Interesting. Gotcha. The only monkey I fought in a video game that like this was the one from Sekiro, and that was also very much a skill check, and I have not gone back to Sekiro in a while because of it, so... Oh, what is it about monkeys? Okay, then we got... I hate this, like, a lot.
This is Kezu.
Okay, tell me about Kezu.
So he was also from the very first game.
We're willing to go this horrifying right away.
So what's funny is also polarizing, but more so for his looks. In Japan, they tend to think of this more of a cutesy design.
What? No.
So he's really beloved over there as like a cutesy monster.
How?
But because it's cute. He looks like a little lychee guy, and it's smooth and not at all phallic.
Yeah, no, I hate this. All right, moving on to the next one then. We got a bat. Tell me about the bat.
So this is Nargacuga, a bat cat-like monster, also from the second generation of games. This was from the second generation of portable games, though. Again, a very, very popular monster because its design is super cool and slightly edgy. Kind of a cat-bat crossover. Another reason people tend to like it is its armor set is very ninja looking. Yeah, super cool monster. I really like this one quite a bit.
Yeah.
It was one that it was kind of a more aggressive kind of build frame, this being this wyvern class. I believe it's a brute wyvern. Or no, this is a flying wyvern.
Oh, this
monster.
Counts as a wyvern, even though it's like mammalian. It's
Yes.
still a wyvern.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, there are some classifications of things you're like, I have no idea why you're calling it that, but sure, let's roll with it.
Okay.
And it more so has to do with some physical appearance than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one is a very popular monster. There's even we'll get to a little bit, but subspecies of this that turns invisible.
All right, and then that gives us to Dun Devimon. Like, this is actually him, but as a dragon.
Devimon. Yeah, this is Gormagala. This one was the 4th generation Monster Hunter, so like Monster Hunter 4/4U for portable play. An extremely popular monster, not just because it's cool looking, it's kind of edgy, has multiple forms, but in the game, the story itself, it revolved around this monster, and you kind of had this like, almost like he was the villain, but not really a villain. So it was really intriguing because before the 4th generation of Monster Hunter, there was basically no story. And in 4, the story was, what is this thing? Why are monsters getting sick from its pollen that it produces? And kind of what's going on to the ecosystem because of it. So it helped drag a lot of people into the game series by having more of a story. And it helps that it looks super sick.
I actually think I remember that too. I think I remember the early trailers for this game and going over that. Okay, gotcha. And then last up, we got this little guy.
Tigrex, as you may be able to tell, is a tiger T-Rex, also from the 2nd gen portable games. He was... So the game he came from was a little janky. So people have a bit of a... What's the right word I'm looking for? Not distaste, but almost like PTSD when they see this monster. In that game, the hitboxes were extremely broken. So he does this kind of choo-choo spin charge at you, where he charges and then spins. And the hitbox on that was so large, you get caught on that no matter what. So a lot of people got really good at dodging it or dying trying. So kind of like Rajang was a bit of a skill check monster, this was another one that was just really aggressive, and I personally really like this one quite a bit.
And this is, I'm assuming, another wyvern.
Yeah, it's a brute wyvern.
Brute wyvern, okay.
A brute wyvern.
So we have got like mostly wyverns on this thing. Is that like kind of the more popular
Everything's
monster
classified
classes?
as a wyvern.
Everything's
a wyvern.
Wait,
everything's a wyvern.
Everything's a wyvern. That's
except for the ones that aren't.
Except for the ones
that's
that
a brute wyvern.
Okay, so that's super helpful. That's a much better explanation on these monsters than I could have ever hoped to give. So thank you very much for that.
Of course.
One thing they mentioned with this device is that there's going to be nicknames and subspecies. And normally I would think of nicknames as like being able to name my thing. That's clearly not going to be the case here. But like, does nickname mean something different in Monster Hunter?
Sort of. People have given monsters nicknames in general for different subspecies and variants, but also the base monsters themselves. Like, for instance, for Zhang, he's been nicknamed Goku, mainly because when he gets angry, he has a second form called Furious Rajang, where he turns gold like Goku.
Oh my gosh.
He goes Super Saiyan.
Okay.
So that's very likely going to be an evolution path for him, is turning into Furious Rajang.
Okay.
And I'm really... It's like Zenogre's nickname is the Sick Flips Doggo, because he does a lot of flipping attack. I don't really think they're going to turn that into an evolution line where he's just flipping all the time. But there is a variant of Zenogre called Stygian Zenogre, where he's like gold, or instead of the gold, he's more of a silver with red trim. So that's very likely going to be an evolution path, especially if he's 4 in front on these devices.
And would that count as a subspecies, or is that a form, or what would that be?
So, yes. But so there's different classifications. There's variants, subspecies, and deviants. So deviants are typically ones that are kind of outside the normal gene pool. So there's one instance that got turned into a subspecies of a Yongaruga is the monster. We've not seen that on the device, but it's a good example of, it's kind of like this little bird. It's like a little thin chicken-looking bird. And the scarred Garuga is that thin, skinny chicken bird, but with like part of its ear missing and a scar on its face. Because it's fought so much, it's kind of gotten better at fighting. So it's a different thing than the normal one because it looks different. And variants tend to be something that changed due to the ecology. So like Tigrex, there's a molten Tigrex. And that molten Tigrex was lived in volcanoes and does fire attacks, a lot more kind of aggressive and fiery. That could also be something I see on this device as well. And then subspecies are like super deviations from the normal line. It's like that molten Tigrex, I believe, is classified as a subspecies because it's so different than the base Tigrex.
And so then, yeah, it sounds like we've got a lot of options that can be had for these different monsters to use for evolutions then, between all those different types there. Okay, so...
And that's not even touching into things like the Elder Dragons, which I'm betting we're going to see at like the kind of ultimate, super ultimate range. These are things that kind of steps outside even any other normal classification.
Okay, interesting, because yeah, I had some differing thoughts there too. So we got the chart up here, and so far we've been shown 8 monsters plus the 2 Digimon ones. And we actually have 8 in the first row there going across. And so one of my questions to you was going to be kind of, and this is a bigger one, but based on the spread of this evolution chart, like, would you think it would be reasonable for those 8 monsters to be the base and then have enough variations, subspecies, etc. to support all the evolution lines below? Or do we feel like there might be some other branching types going on here?
There's got to be other branching types.
Okay.
Some of them, like Rathalos, there are a lot of variations of Rathalos, so I could very easily see that being like that first one where there's 5. Because you have Rathalos, Azure Rathalos, Gold Rathalos, Pink Rathalos. There's one other one I'm forgetting. So that one, you can have quite a few different variations. I personally don't think we'll see all of those, maybe Gold, because that's kind of a more popular one for more recent games. But I definitely don't think that all of these are going to be subspecies or variants unless they make their own. Doubt that.
Gotcha.
But I could see them taking that base form like the Rathalos and splitting it into like a Rathian and then like another Flying Wyvern.
Interesting. Okay. From the ones we've seen, do any of them feel like they would be cohesive or related enough to fit into one of these lines together?
Thinking about it in terms of Digimon, where a fridge can turn into a machine gun.
Yeah, in that realm, we're good.
Potentially. Yeah, in that realm, everything could evolve.
There's a lot that is going to be very interesting to see with this, because this is obviously a brand new concept for Digimon and how they'll do it. And Tamagotchi's got their own ways. This chart is already throwing me way off, just for the sole fact of that we have the one egg up top, right? And that's immediately branching into 8 different possibilities, and it's like,
right.
How is it doing that? What is the means by which an egg is determined how it will hatch? Because Digimon doesn't really do random births when it comes to these things. It's depending what you do is what you get. And
yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. I wonder if it's just like you have the egg spray and you train and do care mistakes with the egg, and then that turns into the monster.
Have an actual egg raising phase. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah,
that's absolutely very interesting. I could certainly see that. That would be cool. And then at the bottom of the chart, we do have. My brain wants to say super ultimates, but that doesn't make perfect context in this. Like, I guess we could say sure the first row is adults and then go down from there, but like, I'm looking forward to how I have to rearrange my website's architecture to support this if I choose to
I almost
do guides for it.
I wonder if those are going to be the Jogresses.
And that's what I'm wondering as well, is are these the Greymon and Garurumon variants of Rathalos and Zinogre? Which I could very easily see that. It would make sense to have them as like super secrets at the end of lines. So that's kind of where my brain is heading towards it. You had also said there's other possibilities that would make sense as those ultimates, like what'd you call it? The Elder Dragon is what you just said? Elder
Dragons, yeah. I could see those, the bottom being Elder Dragons as well. So, because one of the images we got from the backgrounds was the Forlorn Arena, which is typically where one of the big baddie monsters in the series, Fatalis, shows up. And he's kind of like the end game monster. He's very traditional medieval dragon looking.
Okay, yeah.
And I could see him as like a hidden or like a super ultimate character.
Gotcha. I've seen that name thrown around a lot, and I've just had to nod and say, okay. Didn't have any idea who it was yet, so okay, cool. That's good to know. So yeah, obviously a lot of unknowns here. Very looking forward to seeing what additional information we get in the coming months for this about how they're gonna pull this off exactly. Because depending on how they do this could also determine how they do other collaborations in the future if we get them. And I want to see how different they make it from a Digimon to support this kind of thing. So yeah, so that's really cool. I think that's probably all the information we need about Monster Hunter for right now. But I did want to ask. So as I mentioned, I haven't really played a Monster Hunter game, and the types of games I usually play are going to be very exploration focused, and that was kind of one of the things that turned me off of Monster Hunter at first, is that it's much more mission focused, where you're given a mission and going out, at least the ones I played. And I know that the last several games have had just wildly successful releases amongst a variety of people, with those being, what was it, World, and then Rise, and then now it's Wild is being super hyped up. Would you say any of those recent releases would appeal more to someone like me, or do they have more exploration focus, or is it still kind of following that classic Monster Hunter formula that people have grown to love?
Yeah, so there's kind of two camps when it comes to a Monster Hunter game. There is the mainline and the portable game. So something like World would be much more, it's still mission focused, but it definitely wants you to be more of like learning the ecology of an area, discovering just like the little hidden creatures around, discovering hidden areas of a map, because some of those maps are huge in World. Where Rise is a lot more mission focused. With Wilds coming out, that's actually probably going to be more up your alley, because it's a whole open world in that series.
Okay.
Like that game coming out. So it's going to be seamless going from your base camp to the forest to the mountains. Like, you're not going to have any loading screens. It's going to be about exploring these areas, setting up portable camps, and exploring this whole new forbidden land is what it's called, that previously they didn't think anyone lived. And then they found someone there, and they're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And sending out an expedition team to go figure out what's going on in that whole area. It's one of their, they've admitted it's going to be their most immersive storytelling game that they've done. World and Rise had a decent amount of story, even for you as well, but this one they're very much leaning into, hey, this is going to be about a story of this, these people and these monsters and this mysterious thing that's tearing up this ecosystem and what's going on with all of that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds way more close to the type of thing I'd enjoy. And I've looked at these games, and especially like the battles and everything, like how big they are, and I've always wanted to give them a better shot. So maybe that's going to be my entry point is Wilds coming up. So not sponsored by
Monster
Wilds,
February 28th, 2024. Or sorry, 25.
And you're not sponsored either, right?
Nope, not sponsored. Okay, but cool. Man, I wish I was.
Cool. All right. Well, this has been super informative. Hopefully this has been helpful for everyone watching too. But yeah, we'll move on to talk about the last pieces of the device. Vince, thank you so much for being on and sharing your knowledge with us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for reaching out.
So that should cover just about everything we know for right now about these devices. I would imagine that we'll be seeing additional information come out in the coming weeks from Bandai, and hopefully a few videos showing off some of the gameplay details. As for what else we expect to see in the future, this is something that has very much opened up doors to things that I had not been considering in terms of new VPET releases, and I mean that in both a good way and a bad way. The good thing about this is, it's a cool crossover, right? Regardless of whether you like Monster Hunter or not, this is something that's just outright a really good idea, really cool, and a lot of people are really looking forward to it. And it's, with the response so far, Bandai is probably hearing loud and clear that people want this sort of thing badly, and so I could totally see them going on to do additional crossovers with other series. Personally, I'd be pulling for Zoids. I think that would be really cool as an option. If I could truly have my way, I'd have some other ideas, but I think Zoids is at least a reasonable option for something like this. But what they do intend to do or not, I can't say for sure, but I would be very surprised if we didn't see additional crossovers in the future. The big question will be, of course, can Bandai handle the amount of demand for this sort of thing? And clearly at the moment, not really. They can't. And this is where it starts to get a little bit concerning for me, is because if this is something that is going to take up all of their production bandwidth when it comes to these portable LCD toys, what does that mean for new Digimon VPETs? And I don't know. We were already kind of entering an unknown phase where we have the Digivice color right now, and so we can very much still probably expect a D3 color to come out next year. And I would hope they'd still continue on with that series for at least through Tamers, and I don't care if it reaches Frontier, obviously. But as far as VPETs themselves, what else will they be doing with that for Digimon? I don't know. It's a tough question to answer because, yeah, I don't know. The answer is going to have to be that if Bandai wants to be able to support not only the Digivice series, but a Virtual Pet series, and in addition to what they're doing for crossovers, they're going to need additional bandwidth to do that, and I don't know if they will do that or not, because, yeah, this is clearly much, much more successful than the other Digimon V-Pets have been, and so they might just say, well, if this makes the money, we'll just stick with this. And, yeah, I don't know. That's a bit of a bummer thought, but it's kind of where my brain is going, and I'm more than happy for Bandai to prove me wrong, because obviously with Tamagotchi, they will support several different lines going on at once. They'll have the mainline release going on, as well as several different nanos and re-releases for things like, most recently they had the Connection. So right now we have the Tamagotchi Connection, the Tamagotchi Uni, and the continuing release of Tamagotchi Nanos that are all being fully supported. So obviously, again, that's also more popular than Digimon, so is Digimon popular enough to get similar treatment? I don't know. We'll see, but for now, this is a very cool crossover. If you do want it, again, try to pre-order it as quickly as possible. It will be something that will be likely hard to find. It kind of already is hard to find with how quickly the pre-orders go out. So if you want one, get one. Don't bank on it releasing outside of Japan. There's a chance it can, right? There's a chance that there will be a localized release with how popular it is, but not some in the world of Digimon, we never bank on that. I'll tell you that right now. So that's gonna do it for the moment for me. So we'll definitely be posting more news as it comes up on the Discord server. So if you're not in the Discord server, make sure to hit up that link in the description. And if you wanted to talk about this or have questions, I will be doing an unboxing tomorrow night for the Digimon Pendulum Color, the second wave of devices there. And yeah, that's the 29th of September, probably in the evening Eastern Time, US Eastern Time. So feel free to hop on that and ask any questions you want about the device or about Digimon pets in general, and especially about the Digimon Pendulum Color, which I'll be unboxing there. And I've got a few other things that will be coming out in the near future. I've got a review for the Digivice Color that was supposed to have been completed by now, but between real life work and then all this news popping up and the release of the Pendulum Colors, it's recorded. Video and audio is both there. It just needs to be edited and put up, and once I have the time to do that, that will go up. So thank you for your patience on that, and yeah, that's going to do it. So until next time, bye.